Hello, sixth grade friends. This is day 3 of our solid figures unit. Today we are going to be taking the figures that we've been working with and we're going to calculate volume. Okay, let's get at it. You have in front of you some pictures. You have a picture of a cube, and I'm looking at the left-hand side of your notes right now, but you have a picture of a cube and a cuboid. These are also called rectangular prisms. A rectangular prism with equal sides is called a cube. It's a little bit misleading with my picture right here because that is a cuboid. So just as a reminder, a cube has all equal sides, just like that. So let's write the formula for the area of a rectangle or square. This is pretty easy. You've been doing this forever. We've done this year already quite a few times. Area equals length times width. Okay, now let's calculate the volume of a rectangle or a square. You already know this too. If area equals length times width, volume equals length times width times height. There's the formula right there. Okay, now we're going to take a look at triangular prisms. Let's start by writing the formula for area. Area of a triangle is 1/2 times base times height. Isn't it interesting that it's 1/2 times the same formula for the area of a rectangle or a square? Now let's write the formula for the volume of a triangular prism. The volume of a triangular prism is 1/2 times base times height times length. Interesting. Do you notice that the formula for a rectangular prism is in there as well? Sorry, the formula for the volume of a rectangular prism. I bet they have something to do with each other. All right, let's turn to the next page. First of all, let's go ahead and find the volume of this rectangular prism. So we're going to leave triangular prisms on the back burner for just a moment, and we're going to find the volume of this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write the formula. And then we're going to fill in the variables, and then we're going to solve. So let's start with the formula. Volume equals length times width times height. Now let's go ahead and fill in the variables. We're going to keep our volume equals. And for length, we will write 10 centimeters. For width, we will write 10 centimeters. And for height, we will write 15 centimeters. Okay, now we're going to solve. So let's do these two first. 10 times 10 is 100. And then we're also multiplying centimeters times centimeters, so we get centimeters squared. And we still have this 15 centimeters over here that we're going to multiply it by. So now we're going to do those two. Volume equals 100 times 15, which equals 1,500. Centimeters squared times centimeters is going to be centimeters cubed. Okay, and that's what we're going to put down here under solve. Our volume of this particular rectangular prism is 1,500 centimeters cubed. Okay, let's go ahead and work with the next figure on your page. We're going to find the volume of a triangular prism. We've already written down that the formula for a triangular prism is 1/2 base times height times length. There it is right there. So why do you think that is? If you look at the pictures on your notes, and if you're just watching this video, you might not have a set of notes in front of you, but hopefully you can get those and then follow along with me. You should always be doing the work in your notes while you watch the video, never just passively watching the video. That's not going to help you at all. But if you look at the notes, you will see a rectangular prism with a triangular prism right next to it and a line looking like it's splitting the rectangular prism. And the reason that's there is to show you how we come up with the formula for the triangular prism. The formula for a triangular prism is 1/2 base times height times length because it's 1/2 of a rectangular prism. So that's how we get that. Okay, let's fill in our variables. So we've already got our formula up here. Our volume equals 1/2 times 10 times the height, which is 10 again, times the length, which is 15. And look at that, I forgot my centimeters in here. Okay, and then let's start solving. Volume equals 1/2 times 10 times 10 times 15. Okay, how are we going to do this? Let's take these two and let's multiply those. Volume equals 1/2 times 10. How do I do that? Well, when I multiply a fraction by a whole number, I'm going to, this is what's going on. I'm going to multiply the numerators and I'm going to multiply the denominators. So I'm not going to write all of these numbers as fractions, just the first two so we can get those going. Okay, volume equals 10 over 2. Now I multiplied this. 1 times 10 is 10, and 2 times 1 is 2. So 10 over 2 times 10 times 15. Volume equals 10 divided by 2 is 5 times 10 times 15. And now let's multiply these. 5 times 10 is 50 times 15. And my volume is 50 times 15. So let's do this. Let's multiply in our heads 15 times 5 tens. So 15 times 5 is 75, but I didn't multiply 15 times 5. I multiplied 15 times 5 tens. So I need to add a 0 to the end. My volume is going to be 750 centimeters cubed. All right, let's practice this again. On your notes, you have the same, well, you don't have the same, but you have a similar drawing as the last page where you can see how a triangular prism is extracted from a rectangular prism and how the formula works. It's half of a rectangular prism because it's basically a rectangular prism cut in half. So let's follow the same steps. We're going to write our formula, then we're going to fill in the variables, and then we're going to solve. So our formula again is volume equals 1/2 base times height times length. And in this problem, our volume equals 1/2 times 4 times 3 times 10. So now we'll start solving that. Volume equals, and I'm not going to, well, maybe I will. So just as a reminder, that 4 is going to be a 4 over 1. So let's see what that looks like. So 1/2 times 4 over 1. 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. And I really can take out the parentheses at any point here because I'm only doing multiplication. And you can multiply in any order. It's just like addition in that way. Okay, volume equals 2 times 3 times 10. Volume equals 6 times 10. And our volume equals 60 centimeters cubed. Okay, so do you see how I had my formula, and then I filled in the variables, or we've been saying formula substitute, and then I solved it down there. Okay, let's do it again. Now we're going to find the volume of this triangular prism. Okay, so this prism is a little bit different than our last two, in that now we have to make sure that we look carefully and find the right height. The height of a triangular prism is always going to be on one of the bases at right angles to the base. So you can see the right angle sign right here. So this is the area that we would need for our height. Okay, so let's go ahead and write the formula. Volume equals 1/2 times base times height times length. And let's fill in our variables. Volume equals 1/2 times 8 times 3 times 10. Volume equals 8 over 2 times 3. Oops, I just was about to write a 30 there because I'm jumping ahead of myself. Times 10. Volume equals 4 times 3 times 10. Volume equals 12 times 10. And our volume of this particular triangular prism is going to equal 120 centimeters cubed. Oh, look, another one. Okay, let's practice this. So we're going to do the same thing as we've done the last couple examples here. We're going to write our formula first. Volume equals 1/2 times base times height times length. You know, the only reason I'm putting that 1/2 base times height in parentheses is because that is also the formula for area. And so I want you in your mind to remember that and to recognize that part of the volume formula is area. It's the same as writing volume equals 1/2 times area times length. You might get a problem like that sometime where you're given an area to work with and a height or a length, and you should know that area already equals, or 1/2 area already equals 1/2 base times height. Okay, so the volume in this case, let's fill in our variables, equals 1/2 times 17 times 5 times 4. Volume equals 17 over 2, combining these two, times 5 times 4. Okay, 17 divided by 2 is going to be 8.5, but here it is for you in case you want to see that. 2 goes into 17 8 times. 8 times 2 is 16. Let's subtract. So 7 minus 6 is 1. Oops. And then we're going to bring down that 0. Make sure our decimal goes in the right place up there in the quotient. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay, so volume equals 8.5 times 5 times 4. I took those parentheses out because I would rather multiply 8.5 by 20 than I would by 5 for now, because it's just going to be easier and we probably can do it in our heads. So we just figured out that 17 divided by 2 is 8.5, right? So what do you think 8.5 times 20 might be? Well, let's do the same trick that we did a minute ago when we multiplied 5 times, or what did we multiply? 5 times 50. So let's multiply 8.5 times 2, and then we're going to add a 0 because we're actually multiplying by 20 instead of 2. So 8.5 times 2 is 17, but we didn't multiply by 2, we multiplied by 20. So we need to add a 0 because we multiplied 8.5 times 2 tenths. So that's our answer. Volume equals 170 centimeters cubed. Okay, now you have a toyo in front of you, or directions for a toyo. So what I'd like you to do is flip to the last page of your notes and use the volume formula to calculate the volume of the figures in problem A, B, and C, and then come back and check your work. I'm not going to go through the math on this video for those because we've done a whole bunch of examples, and if you don't get them right, it's because something went wrong in your math. So just make sure that you've plugged in the numbers correctly into your formula and rework your math. Maybe even check it with a calculator if you're still not coming up with the right answer. So go ahead and pause the video, go do those, then come back. I'm going to display the answers for you here in just a second. All right, there you go. You should have gotten 1,920 centimeters cubed for letter A, 3,840 centimeters cubed for letter B, and 840 centimeters cubed for letter C. Okay, so if you missed school today, you should know that the homework for today's lesson is called Exercise 1. It's a worksheet that I handed out in class. Hopefully you got it with your other materials if you're at home. Remember that when you do this, that you need to include the 3 steps that we have gone through today. So you're going to write the formula, you're going to fill in the variables, and you're going to solve, and make sure that you include units. Any of your volume problems will have cubic centimeters or cubic inches or whatever, so they're all going to be cubed units. All right, that's it.